Abusheni, Isikani, Imajambula Manene. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. My name is Butomi Sophia Mbori Yakachabalala. What do you do when the people that are meant to be protecting you, which are your parents, are the ones that are causing you harm? What do you say, and where do you run to? As we celebrate 16 days of activism against women and children abuse, I invite you to join us as we meet one young lady who was neglected by her parents so much so that she grew up in a home of safety. But first, remember to subscribe, like, and leave a comment.
Hi, my name is Jabulile Skosana. I am 30 years old. I am based in Midrand. Today I am on Second Chances with Sophia to share how I ended up at the orphanage. My story is a story of a little girl who was abandoned, neglected, and ended up at the orphanage. I don't know where to start, Sophia.
Anyway, wherever you're comfortable.
Okay, so this is what happened to me. When I was about 8 or 9 years old, my home had become an uncomfortable place because my parents were fighting a lot. They were just fighting about anything and everything. What affected me was the fighting, the physical fighting. My mother was a very verbal person and she could curse. My mom was she was very strong in an aggressive way verbally. And my father was very physical. He'd physically beat up my mother. And I grew up in that environment for, I don't want to say for, I don't remember how many years. Yes, so my parents were just in that toxic environment, and I was also there. I was one of 5. I was led to believe I was one of 5 siblings. I had 2 brothers and 1 sister from my father's side, and 1 brother from my mother's side who I'm very close to. The other 3 siblings, I never had any relationship with them, but I had met them a few times, especially the second brother. Growing up, I felt like I was the most special child, especially when I was younger, when I was still in preschool, and just when I started primary school. I thought I was just the most special child because I got to stay with my parents, and my parents were married, and all my other siblings were not at home. They were staying with their other respective parents. So I thought I was the most special child. I stayed with my parents. When I was really young, my father was just the most loving dad ever. My father, I used to call him my big teddy bear. Thinking back, just thinking about my father, I would always say he was my awesome teddy bear. My father would cuddle me. My father would kiss me. Whenever he came back from work, he was just the most loving dad. He was just very exciting, very engaging as well. He cared about everything that had to do with me. On the other side, my mother was not a very affectionate mother. My mother was doing herself. I would say she was just not crazy about me, and she would even make jokes about how I love my dad more than I love her. But she's just never been a mother who will give you a hug when you need it, or even go to school to check how you are doing. Even when she was called to school, I'd come back home and tell my mother, the teachers are calling you, and she'd say, hey, don't go to primary school. The last time I went to primary school was in 1930, whatever. But she wouldn't be interested in whatever was happening to me at school. And most of the times when they would say I should bring my mother, it was after they had asked a lot of questions about what is happening at home. Am I okay? Did anyone touch me? Did anyone hit me? But my mother was just not involved in anything that had to do with my school life or even just my life in general. Then around the ages of 8, 9, that's when things got intense at home, because I guess they were at their breaking point. It was just separation time, even though it was not discussed to say let's go our separate ways. They were not getting along to a point where the fights would be more frequent than normal. Normal was seeing it happen maybe once a month, twice a month, or even, I don't know, but just a few times, not a lot. But now I was on the edge. I just felt like every night was just a night of trigger. Anything can happen. So I grew up in that environment for a while. And my mom and dad, yes, they were not getting along. They were fighting a lot. Then my father started not coming back at home. Now this thing of not sleeping at home started being a problem at home. And whenever he would come back, it would be those intense fights again. Then my mother would fight until it got to a point where she started accepting it. My mother was dealing with it well this time, but she was still being very easily ticked off. She was angry. She was moody. But she wasn't vocal about it. She was not fighting. She wasn't arguing. So there were no beatings at that time. And my father would just be calm as well and mind his own business, get home on those days when he was coming to sleep at home and move on with his life. And life was okay at home. Then he started sleeping out for more nights. Then we knew my father was not coming back. I did not mention that my father was a taxi driver. He would leave home around 4 a.m. and come back around 8:30 to 9 p.m. And then my mom started retaliating when my father spent more nights out. Then she just left. And she didn't leave as someone who was not coming back. I thought she was coming back, but I saw the nights going past and I was sleeping alone at home. So that started being life at home. Then my father would come back and sleep for a few nights and be gone. But my mother wouldn't sleep at home. She would always just come and take whatever she needed and leave again. You know, there were times when I would cry and beg my mother to stay, but she would respond, but she just didn't show any sense of care. I remember sometimes I'd even try to just think maybe she will feel hurt if I say it's because I'm starving and beg for food from my mother. And one thing that she would always say, and I knew the answer even before I asked for food from my mother, she would always say, there's no grave for a person who died of hunger, so you'll be fine. And she would still walk away. And I would think, she will come back, she'll bring me something. My mother wouldn't look back. My mother would be gone. Then my father started being the one who comes back at home to sleep. And whenever he would be back, he was just moody. You know, he didn't kiss me anymore. He didn't pick me up. He couldn't stand me. I could see that he was just not happy with me now. And it was just the two of us at home. Then on the nights when he was not home, it would just be myself. My dad started being very aggressive. Now my father was very angry. He would come back and he would be ticked off by the smallest things that were wrong in the house. If there's a teaspoon on the table, he would ask why the teaspoon is on the table. My father never cared about dishes, but this time it was different. He was looking at every little thing and finding reasons to beat me up. My father would hit me. Now, whenever my father was back home, I just knew I was going to get a beating for something, no matter how hard I tried to get things together and to get things perfectly put in the house. My father would just be very aggressive. My father was an angry dad now. He couldn't stand me. So on this particular day, my father's grandkids came to visit. Those were the daughters of the last born daughter that he had. They came to visit and they were running around. We knew they were a handful. They were just very happy kids. While they were playing, they were running into the house as well and running out. So I saw them running around. So when it was getting late and I knew my father was going to be home anytime soon, I decided to get into the house to check if everything was fine. I got in and I found the curtain on the ground. So the curtain was dividing the bedroom and the kitchen. It was a very small shack. I got inside and I found the curtain on the ground. I panicked. I knew my father would walk in any time now, so I needed to fix this before my father got home. I was so scared. I was shaking. I was nervous. I was everything wrong. I sat down and I took that curtain. The curtain had a string that had to go into the curtain and come out on the other side of the curtain so you could pull it on both sides and hang it. I tried to do that. I had to put the string back into the curtain because the string had come out of the curtain. So I had to put the string back into the curtain. It was the longest process of my life, so I couldn't do it fast enough. And I was shaking, I was scared. I tried to push the string into the curtain. While I was pushing it in, I pulled a chair to sit on this chair, but the chair was not too far from the door because the shack is small, so I was facing the door now, pushing the string into the curtain. While I was doing that, my father walked in. I was so scared. I stood up. I don't know why I even stood up. But I just stood up and I remember my father just charging at me and I woke up in hospital. I don't know how I got there. I never asked any questions. And when I was discharged after that, I walked to a family friend's house and I was there for a few days. Then I went back home. Home was now a very scary place. It was even worse now that I knew that I'm officially on my own. My mom is just not there to protect me and my father is far more angrier than he was. I got home. I decided to not go to school anymore. Life was just like that. I just thought, let me just quit school. It's fine. I'll just stay at home. It was like I was waiting for my life to change. I don't know how it was going to change, but it was like I just wanted to be home. I didn't want to move. I didn't want to do anything. I just wanted to wait for my dad to do whatever he was going to do with me. I stayed at home, and after a while, maybe it was after a few weeks or even a month, I decided to go back to school. There was a difference between being at home all day and being at school. There was no food at home, so I always had to ask for food from neighbors, and there was one neighbor who was just always there to give me. He was selling bread, so he would give me bread whenever I needed it. I went to school, and I got there. It was like the one teacher who was always concerned about me, who was always asking a lot of questions, who always kept me in class, talking to me, asking what was happening at home. It was like she was waiting for me on that day. She was so relieved to see me. I thought she was just very happy to see me. It was weird. She called me to the principal's office. The principal was there with someone else that I don't remember who was also there. And then I was not okay at that time. I think I was just, I don't know, my emotions were just pulling me south. I was not okay. I got to school. They called me to the office. I sat there. And they were still asking those 1,000 questions that they had been asking that I never really answered with honesty, to tell them what was happening at home. I was sitting there and they were asking all of those questions. I didn't know they had already called the police. When I got to the office, they asked for my aunt's number, and I gave them my aunt's number. So she was already on the way as well, coming to school. I was just crying so much. I was crying insanely. I was hysterical. It was like I was waiting for a moment to let it all out, and finally I found people that wanted to listen to me, to be there for me, because they were really sensitive. I felt like the environment was very comforting. I cried so much. So the police had arrived. My aunt was there. They spoke to my aunt after trying to get through to me and failing. I must have said a few things at school. Then they took me to the child welfare. There was my aunt, my brother, and my aunt's son, my cousin. They took me to the child welfare, and I found out that they needed to place me at a place of safety because they were worried about my safety. That was on the second day of being at the child welfare. And I think what spoke more than my mouth was my scars, because it was like my father was trying to hurt my mother when he was beating me up. He would make sure that my mother finds me bruised, or just, my father was not afraid to see my blood. He wouldn't feel any remorse when I was really hurt. So he would always make sure that he leaves his mark whenever he beat me up. I knew that my angry dad was just not nice. There was even a time when I went to school and couldn't sit on the chair because he had hit me so badly with a shambok. And because he was a taxi driver, and you know they sometimes carry weapons, he had this shambok. It is a weapon, right? He had the shambok in the taxi. But on one special night, he decided to bring it home to use it on me. And I hadn't seen him in a few days, but he still brought the shambok home to hit me with it. And I went to school bruised. I had to take a pillow with me to sit on it on the chair. And I guess that's when the teachers also saw that something was really wrong.
Bia, besides the physical beating, did your father touch you in terms of, was he ever sexual with you?
No, he was never ever sexual with me. He has never been inappropriate in any way of that sort.
Okay. So how did it make you feel when you were taken away by the social workers and the police from the school premises?
I was scared. I felt like I was doing something wrong because I thought I was going to be in trouble with my parents. It was me doing the one thing that I had never done before, which was talking about what was happening at home, because I didn't think my parents were doing it for sure, or for people to even know about what is happening at home. So I was really afraid. I thought they were going to deal with me when they get to me. Both my parents. To answer on the first one, Futi, on whether my father was ever... There was no other abuse that I experienced from my father except for the physical abuse. He was not a verbal person as well. The one person who was just on another level was my mother. My mother could break you with her mouth. My mother is the mother who would say things like, I should have aborted you on a random night. She would just look at me and say, I should have aborted you when I still had a chance. You know, my mother, there was nothing nice that she would say to me except, Papa, you are stupid. All of those things that would break a child that today I know were not supposed to be said to me. My mother would use those words that were just not right.
Getting to the orphanage, getting to the home of safety, how was it like for you? Were you allowed to see your mother? Did she ever come to see you?
When I got there, I think I stayed for 2 years without seeing my mother. She was allowed to come because she even appeared on the newspaper. Her name and my father's name were on the newspaper because the social workers were looking for them. They couldn't make any decision without really taking me to children's court together with my parents. So I did not get to see my mother for about 2 years, and then she pitched on a random day after 2 years. And on the first time she came, I asked them to not let them in because I didn't want to see her. I thought I didn't want to have anything to do with my mother. I was worried about facing her after telling my story to the social workers and people at school to say, yes, I'm not okay. Yes, my mother is being beaten up by my father and home is toxic. So I was afraid of what my mother's response was going to be. But after about 2 years, when she came through, I just didn't care. I didn't want to have a relationship with my mother. And a lot of kids didn't have mothers coming to visit. So I felt like I was normal. I was one of them, you know, I was home. I was okay there and I didn't need my mother. So I thought it might bring some sort of pain. So I didn't want to deal with my mother at that time. When I finally saw my mother, it was after I had been through a lot of emotional episodes that were playing in my mind, where one episode that played was a big argument between my mother and my dad, where my father said I was not his child. So when I finally let my mother in to see her, to speak to her, it was because I had questions about that argument and I wanted to know who my father was. And I found out that my father, the one that I've always called my father, really wasn't my biological father. He met my mother when my mother was pregnant, and they got together, and he loved me dearly because he was trying to show my mother that he can love me. And when he fell out of love with my mother, that's when he wanted to show my mother that he can actually hate me too. So that is what happened.
Did you ever go out to look for your biological father?
Oh, yes, I did. It was such a beautiful journey, very exciting journey. Oh, I loved the journey of finding my dad, but it didn't end well because when I finally found him, he had passed on, but he had told the family about me. But there was no one really. He had told his wife and his children were aware of my existence, but no, nothing happened after that. But the journey of finding my dad was just the best.
So how was it like growing up in an orphanage?
It had its own challenges, but being safe and having no pain and no stress, not having to worry about where I'm going to get my next meal, people donating clothes and knowing that I'm not going to need clothes, and even if I need them, I'm not alone, just going through everything with other kids. You know, it's a beautiful environment because the sisterhood is intense. Everyone understands that we are all in pain. The difference is that you are just all broken kids who are going through the most, and some days are just days of being rebellious. Some days kids are just so angry. It's like there's just days where we are not fine and we are all not fine. It's like we could just tell one another, don't talk to me, or just there's just sad days. But I am not gonna lie, that was the best place I could ever be at, where no one was judging me, no one was making me feel different, no one was hating me. I felt safe. I felt it was at home
for you.
Yeah, it was definitely home. It was the best place I could have ever been at.
I mean, there are a lot of parents that cannot afford to live with their children, that are going through things, and they feel like they just want to give away their children, but most of them, they end up just raising their kids themselves, and being angry parents is in your experience. And they think there are a lot of people that are, even in the black culture, there are very few people that actually adopt. because we are not familiar with this whole home of safety or orphanage environment. So would you advise someone who feels like that on the deep end, or they don't want their child but the child is already here, what would you advise them regarding taking their child to a home of safety? For you, it felt like home.
You know, I have a certain level of respect. I have a different kind of respect for a woman who falls and rises again and again with their child. People go through the most out there. There's also postnatal depression that happens, and people really suffer, but they never stop rising with their children. So I would never advise anyone to give their children away, because growing up without your parents is something else. There's nothing nice about it. You want to have that family setting. It's being taken from the normal world of the outside world out here, where there's normal community, there's neighbors, there's playing, there's kids, there's friends, there's all of that life that is more out here, and being placed in a gated house that is just all about you being very safe, where you are just being secured, where there's for a child like that who's just at home with their mother, and their mother is going through the most, I feel like there's no harm for the child. It's just the mother who has to rise. The mother has to work on themselves. The mother has to get it together and fight for their children. But if you feel that you cannot take care of your child, in my case where I was neglected, I think it was the best thing that could ever happen for the system to take me in. So I wouldn't advise anyone to give their child away. I don't care how bad the circumstances are, unless you are in a very abusive space that maybe is toxic in other ways other than just I'm emotionally not coping, where there's actually help for emotional control or emotional things that you can go through in life.
That's what I'm more interested in. I mean, as one of the conversations we had earlier on, you say that when people hear that you grow up in an orphanage, everything else, that the conversation immediately it changes. It focuses on you grow up in an orphanage. People want details. I also want the details. I want to know how, like, when you wake up in the morning, what happens in an orphanage? How is your life different from someone who's growing up in a normal household?
The difference is just having that family life. You know, coming out here and then you have to deal with having cousins, having sisters and brothers, and now you are in a family setting and you are not sure how to behave. In the orphanage, you are told how it's done. 5 o'clock is wake up time. You must be done bathing by 6 o'clock. Your space must be cleaned by 6:30. So everything is scheduled. Your life is scheduled. Imagine my life was scheduled for about 8-9 years. And then you come out here where everything just happens at its own time. And sometimes people sit down to eat and you know, I'm the kitchen girl of the day, so you know you're the one who's dishing up for the kids on that day, and you want to wash the dishes while the rest of them are still in the kitchen eating, and you are told, hey sissy, please come sit down because this is home, it's family time. But you don't know what family time is. You know, you have to adjust to that family time, and the language as well hurts, because you'll be told this is not the orphanage, and you must remember where you come from, because whenever that is mentioned, it's I forgot that I'm from the orphanage. Not that you forget, but you try to blend into the family, but you keep being reminded that, hey, this is not where you belong, you know? You belong in the orphanage. So that is the difference between life inside and life outside. And just, there's a lot that is being said. You're trying to argue with someone. Normally it would be an argument between you and a girl from the orphanage, and it ends, you know, it ends wherever it ends. But outside, you will hear someone being told, don't argue with Jab, which is the child of the government. Don't forget she's sensitive and what do they call it? It's something like she's special, but yeah, just handle her with care. But you want to be free, you know, you want to confront a conflict when it comes up, but you have no place in the outside world where you can say, don't say that to me. There'll be someone else to support you to say, yeah, no, don't say it. She's very special. Don't forget that she's a child of the government. So it's a different world. It's a very different world. It's very uncomfortable. It's like there's no place for you out here. With everything you do, you must just be reminded that you can't be that good, because remember, you are the child of the government. Remember, and other people would even say, you just had it easy. You guys are just sleeping there, living your good life. You don't have any problems. They don't take into account the loneliness that goes in there. You know, I was even saying to someone who was going to donate clothes, I donate clothes to my home as well. I was telling her that, you know, sometimes because I see the Gucci's and all these nice things that you are going to donate at the home, maybe you can go and find out what they need, and you can raise funds with what you are donating to the home, and get them what they actually need. And she told me, no, I just want to donate, which is okay, which is great, because we survived on those clothes. But sometimes a child at the orphanage just needs to be listened to. She needs a bit of your time. She needs your love, your care. You know, sometimes you can even do it once in your entire life and just tell a girl, you are beautiful, you have great potential, oh, you are so bright. It just makes you go a long way. And I'm saying this from experience, because I'm at a place of so much healing, of so much happiness, there's so much peace in my life because of the things that were said by people after what I had heard that had broken me as a child.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Right now, we are shooting this video in your very lovely, lovely, lovely home. I've seen pictures of your husband. I see you have a beautiful, beautiful daughter that just adores you. What was that journey like into getting married? Side note, I'm curious to know who your husband paid lobola to. So yeah, how is it? Please tell us about it.
It was not an easy journey, guys. There's still the dating that you have to do in the outside world. You know, you are now over 18. I left the home when I was turning 19. I was going to turn 19. Now you have to come out here and hear men saying, I love you. And the next thing, they don't love you anymore. And it takes you all the way back to where you come from. You know, you were rejected by your parents. They once loved you. At some point, they loved you. And then they didn't love you anymore. And now you have to deal with men who will say, I love you today. And tomorrow it's like, it's not working out. I've never dumped anybody, guys. I've always been dumped. And it's not only that. It would also go deep into the arguments where you are. I've been told, your mother and father dumped you and you want to be treated special by me. You know, other guys feel like they can use your story against you. They can use it to break you, or just to make it easy for them to reject you, to help you understand that you are just to be rejected. So it was a very long, painful journey in the dating space, to a point where I decided, you know what, I am okay with dating. When I meet a man, I am going to explain exactly what I wanted. And I prayed about this. I had to put in a lot of praying into this, because wow, I was exhausted, guys. I was exhausted. There was even a time when I dated and I thought, you know, it felt like I was going to die in the loving space. I was going to die for love, or I was going to be arrested for love. Because I felt like you can't be treated so badly and not fight back. I needed to fight back. I was so mad. I wanted to hurt somebody so they can know what it feels like to be hurt. There was a time when I was just really cruel. Until I got to a point where I think I went back to church. Your church, guys. Go back to Jesus. Your church works, guys. The Lord loves all of us. I think praying about it and saying, I want to work on myself, so that when you see me, you see who I am today. I want people to see the Lord in me and His work for what I have become, and not what I once was or what I am trying to be, because I felt like I was insisting on being loved, on being, you know, settling down and having my own family. Having a child was the one thing that I wanted so badly. I wanted to have a child, and not just a child. I wanted children, guys. I wanted a family. Yo, guys, I wanted a family. It was crazy, but when we are bamba, yo, wow. I wanted a big family. So I knew I needed to be financially stable as well. I needed to be emotionally stable. There was a lot of work that I had to put in myself before I could get what I wanted. So I really focused on me for a while. I met my husband in 2015. And end of 2014 or 2015. Yeah, I think it was towards the end of 2014. And we dated. until 2017, and it was just a beautiful journey. It was just a beautiful dating journey. I had found someone someone whose mess I could put up with, someone who was worth putting up with. And in 2017, the guy did something special for me. Took me out. It was just a random thing, he took me to a spa. And after everything that happened on that beautiful day, the spa that we were at, I forgot the name of the spa, but it was deep in the trees somewhere, and they gave me this box, and they said it was from the spa. But when I opened it, it was really special. It had some roses in it, some chocolates, and all the nice things. And it had this letter. This was the letter, and I thought it was from the spa because the box was from the spa. Can I read the letter?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. The letter said, "My beautiful angel Jabulile." So it didn't make sense for this to be from the spa. And when I read the letter, it says, it feels like yesterday when we first met at Chili's. The memory is still fresh in my mind, and every time I relive that moment, a big smile starts to lay itself out along my lips, thinking, indeed, we find love in the hopeless places. All this then leads to more memories, all leading me back to you, and I cannot begin to count how much of a blessing you are in my life. You are my friend, my lover, my advisor, my doctor, my coupe, and everything else I could ever wish for in my life. I truly appreciate your humility, selflessness, respect, and care towards me. And with that, I love you more and forever. I'm truly blessed to have you as a part of my life. As a result, I believe it would be best we are no longer girlfriend and boyfriend. So when I read this letter, I was laughing the whole time, guys. I was melting. We were walking at that time because he had insisted that I read the letter while we were walking. I was just thinking, oh my goodness, this guy loves me. Oh, this guy loves me. Until this letter came to this part where it says, I think it's best we stop being boyfriend and girlfriend, but rather husband and wife. And I thought, that is great. But when it says I would like our families to meet on the 23rd of September to officially engage in our union going forward, that's when I became a little cold. I didn't like that part of this letter at all. I'll just leave it at that for now. That's when I remembered that I am from the orphanage and I don't have the uncles. So now I had to think about how we're going to do this. And he saw that I was distracted. And he knew my life. He knew everything that was happening with me. I had opened up a lot to this guy. And I think before he even gave it to me, he knew what my problem was going to be because we had discussed it a few times. And he told me that I know I've touched on a sensitive subject, but I think you should leave it all to your uncle. I've got Ubabomkulu. He's the only uncle I really have who's active in my life and whom I really consider as an uncle. So now we had that to deal with, but now I was a little depressed because I was thinking, is this the guy I'm going to lose over this? Because I really don't want to be having to organize uncles. Or do I take this to the orphanage? Does he go to lobola me at the orphanage? What do I do? Do I just let this go and just say, go to my mother? I was confused now at this point. I didn't know what I was going to do with myself. But time went on and I spoke to my aunt and my uncle and they said, you don't need to worry about anything. That's when I thought my brother was young, but my brother is actually a bit old. And my uncle told me, you don't have to worry about anything. The day will go very well. Let the family come. My husband, my now husband, wrote the official letter and everything went very well.
So now you've been out of the orphanage for how long now? How many years?
A little over 10 years.
Over 10 years. Where are you with your healing? Where's your relationship with your mother? How are you?
I am very well, thanks. With my healing, I think my healing started at the orphanage. I think I completed my healing journey. Yes, there were triggers when I left the orphanage, obviously, because you have to deal with the world outside and what it throws at you and what takes you back to the life before the orphanage and the orphanage life as well. But my healing started at the orphanage. I think I worked so hard to stand out from the rest of the kids at the orphanage. Everyone was different, but I held it very close to my heart. I was that child that I remember there was one childcare worker that trusted me with anything and everything, you know. There'd be times when I'd be emotional, sitting in my room feeling miserable, and she would knock and say, Jabu, I can't find the social worker and there's a child who's not feeling well. Can you just sit down and talk to her? So I had to take on that role as well of ensuring that that person is okay, you know, though that was my chance to say, no, I'm also going through the most. But I would always talk to myself and say, you may be going through whatever you're going through right now, but someone else needs you. So there's an impact that you can go make right now. Take the opportunity. So I would always get myself together to make sure that the next person gets good energies from me, you know, they find their healing as well, and we walk the journey together. Because I think she gave me a beautiful platform. She trusted me with some really deep issues, because people would have some crazy breakdowns, and she would always call upon me and say, Jabu, you can assist. I don't know what to say to this child. She's just hysterical. What should I do? And whenever I would get there, I would know that I'm in a position of someone who holds something very important to that person at that time. At the home, we were taught that when you stand in front of people and speak of the Lord, Umama, there was a mama that they used to call Mama Khatebe. She would say, Ume eskundleni sika Nkulunkulu. It's standing in God's position. I think in direct interpretation, if I'm not mistaken. So she would say you are standing in God's position. So I would always know that when I stand in front of someone that needs this emotional contribution that I can give, I'm standing in the position of someone very important. I hold something very special. I think that's what I left the orphanage with. I always felt I am special. I hold something special. There's something amazing about me, and I definitely have something to offer to the world. So I ran with it from there. With my mother, I am very much in control of our relationship, because whenever I drop the ball, it gets even more toxic. So I keep my distance as much as I can. I love my mother dearly. I wouldn't trade my mother for any other mother. And I'm grateful for the journey I had with my mom. I don't have the tightest relationship with my mother, but we do talk. I take care of my mother when I can. Yeah, my mother I consider her my friend. I love my mother a lot. So I'm at a good place with her. But my mother hasn't forgiven herself, no doubt. But I have forgiven my mother, and I'm at a good place with her.
At the orphanage, you reach age 18, then what happens to you?
There's always different things that happen to different people. So with me, my family was waiting for me. My aunt was waiting for me. She was already very much involved with me when I was still at the orphanage. So she'd come to visit maybe every 2 weeks a month, every 2 weekends. Not 2 weekends. Yeah, she'd also take me on during school holidays as well. My brother was also very supportive. He was working very hard to make sure that when I come out of the orphanage, he affords my accommodation for when I went to tertiary. My support was just intense, guys. My support was very strong. The support I was getting was very strong. But with others, it's a different story. Like right now, as I'm speaking, there's a matriculant who's doing very well academically, but she doesn't have anyone. So she has no one to take her in after matric. So now they're just asking everyone and everybody to say, who can take her? And when you are 18, they believe you are old. You'll be 19 and you'll be able to be on your own. And you are not empowered. There's nothing you can do for yourself. But now they're just looking for a place where they can just place you, where you'll just be home. And you're not under the what is it called? Not the guidance. You're not under the system anymore. So you are really on your own. So there's a lot of those that have been very unfortunate, that have had to just be taken by the cleaner at the orphanage, the social worker. There's no social worker that has ever taken a child. That have been taken by the cleaner that says, I'll take the child, the driver, or whoever works at the home who says, I'll take them in. So it's a thing of, it's just the last option, and you can't expect the child to be empowered, to be loved, to be supported there, because they're really just doing them a favor. And with others, for instance, I've got a girl in KZN who was placed back at home where she was raped by her brother at home. She has nowhere else to go, and it's time for her to leave the orphanage. So they took her back to the home where the perpetrator is, just hoping that the perpetrator has corrected his behavior and that he's not going to be any harm to the girl. So a lot of times they just really find you a place. From where I come from, I've heard that from other orphanages they do it differently, but from where I come from, they find you a place, and sometimes it's not the most suitable place. It does not guarantee you a better life or any improvement of your life. So it's different for everyone, but with a lot of people it depends on who is there, who wants to take them, who's giving them love. With others, then it's where can we place them? Wherever we've got space, let's just place them wherever they can go. So it's different for everyone. I registered an NPO that the main focus is empowering people that have been through the most, people that need to heal, people that need to fight and get back on their feet and get the life they deserve, because we all deserve a good life in the end. And I believe if after all you've been through, you need to get up, you need to move on with your life. So this NPO, currently I have just 15 girls from the orphanage where I grew up, because not everyone wants to step forward. You know, we only see others that are now street kids, and after living at the orphanage and suffering so much, they are now street kids, and others we hear about that they now live in brothels. So everyone is just choosing a different life to say, how can I survive without asking for help? So I've created this platform for people that need help to step forward and say, help me. I always tell my sisters, I have no money to give you, I have no food to give you, but I can give you skills that can get you out there. I can help you find the skills. I can ask for help on your behalf if you need help and you can't say it directly to whoever you need it from. So with everyone who has been through the most, or who has been through something that left them on the ground, I am more than happy to walk the journey with them. I believe I've got a good friend of mine that always says, it happened to me, but it was not for me. So I do believe that it's definitely for me to use my testimony and to use all that I've been given by God to hold their hand and walk the journey with them. I'm reachable on Facebook. My name is Jabulile Skosana on Facebook. On Instagram as well, I am Jabulile Skosana, and I've started a YouTube channel as well, Jabulile Skosana.
I told you, and I told you that today's episode is going to be special. And wow, she had me emotional. I just could not sit next to her. I wanted to be at the background because it's a lot. I really learned a lot from her today. I hope you did too. And one thing I'm taking with me today, like I said, we are shooting in a beautiful, beautiful house, is that your past does not determine who you are or where you are going. She is living her best life right now. What is your excuse to be in the situation that you are in right now? Why are you not able to get out of it? The social workers, because she was still young, they took charge of her situation and they got her the help that she needed. Where you are right now, what are you waiting for? So in closing, any closing remarks? What would you advise someone who is going through something? And yeah.
Now, speaking from a child's position, I would say to parents who are going through the most, you are not the only one who's going through the most, and you have the power to change the situation. Because when you take the struggle, when you take that pain, when you take all of the suffering, your kids take it more and they're not as strong as you. So you are letting them stay in that situation. When you move away from that situation, you're giving your child a space to breathe and they get to be children again. And whatever the situation is, however it is, even if it's just marital problems, your children right now are going through your marital problems because you are staying in the toxic environment. The suffering that they are going through is molding them into the angry people, into the people that are going to become whatever they become in the future. And sometimes we will point fingers and say, you know, I grew up with a lot of rebellious children in the orphanage. I grew up with a lot of angry kids. And we look at the person and we say, this is not a good person, or this is wrong, or this is right. We don't look at what got them to that position, what made them the people they are. So we as the parents today, staying in those situations, we are putting our children through those situations. And there's always help. There is just always help. If you do your research, you look for help, you find it. If you don't look for help, it's not going to come to you. And a lot of times when it comes to you, having not looked for it, you don't want it, you don't appreciate it. So I would say get up and find that help. The life you want to live is waiting for you to take it, but you're not going to take it if you are not looking for it, and you are not moving away from whatever is breaking you at this point. And to the young people that are going through it, talk to someone, let someone know. There's always someone who's ready to help you. I know I could have been out of it way long ago. I know it was all God's plans, but if I had spoken early, I know I could have been saved very early. My aunt always says, I was always hoping I was on time, Jabu. I was always hoping you spoke on time. I got that call on time to come and just take you and make sure that whatever needed to happen happens. So if you can look for the help as a child, cry for help. Just cry for help. It's definitely out there. There's nothing that cannot be resolved. There's no way that you can suffer all the way, because God has a plan with all of our lives. We are going to a certain destination. It's not where you are right now. But to get there, we need someone to hold our hands at some point. We need someone to cry to at some point. So let us use the help that is out there.
Thank you for sharing your story. There is so much to Jabu's story. What she shared with us now is just the top of the iceberg. Follow her YouTube channel, Jabulile Skosana, as she talks about how she got raped and how she overcame sexually molested, how she got sexually molested and how she overcame that. It is one thing to have gone through trauma, it's another thing when you choose healing and forgiveness. So thank you for tuning in, and do come back again. Remember to subscribe. See you again soon
on the other side. Thank you so